We're looking forward to the address of the political leader, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Rowley, and all of Tobago and all of Trinidad. We are excited. We're really, ready to hear what the political leader has to say, his address for us in Tobago, and as well for Trinidad and Tobago. And we await his address in a short while.
The highlight of today's event will be the address by the political leader. Everybody's anxious and awaiting to hear what the Prime Minister will have to say to this convention and to Trinidad and Tobago today. And also, we'll be recognizing 14 long-serving members of the PNM. And a lot of them are from Tobago, Joel, including former Chief Secretary Orville Landers.
Yes, he will be honored as well, and we have some other distinguished persons who are also in the lineup to be honored this afternoon. Honorable Mr. London, he has worked hard. The Orville London PNM administration since 2001 to now has been responsible for the transformation of Tobago. And today we are honoring him. We are honoring Mr. Neil Wilson, Mr. Lyle Thorne, Mr. Thorne, one of the first persons that I met coming into politics. He has guided me along the way. Although he's physically challenged, he's strong intellectually, mentally, and he's really a community activist, a person, a model community citizen. We have Miss Cynthia Alfred, and we're here today in the Shore Park Cultural Complex. And she was one of so this was her baby, the brainchild behind the assembly moving forward with this project. So, today is a day that all of Trinidad and Tobago should be proud of. Mr. Overrun Padmore, veteran and seasoned politician. So I think, it's an exciting day.
I find
all of Tobago and all Trinidad.
The energy is very high.
Yes,
the performances, the culture, you feel Tobago, and I think we're going to have a great day today.
So we're going to have
So now we will go back to Laurel.
This is part 2 of a
go back to Laurel, our public relations officer, at this time.
And Assemblyman Joel Jack. Thank you very much, Senator Avinash Singh. We are here at the Shore Park Cultural Complex, and so we have some wonderful Tobagonian performers as we really come back into this second half. In the audience we have with us some of our awardees, who would be, namely, Mr. Hedridge Burrow, former Member of Parliament for Libre, the Honourable Joe Newell Williams, a former ambassador, former senator, former government minister, and current deputy political leader of the PNM. Mr. Overrun Padmore, a party stalwart. He is also going to be honoured here. We have Mr. Jarrett Narang, former member of parliament for Aruka North. Also joining the lineup, we have a number of persons resident from Tobago. We have Miss Cynthia Alfred, who served as the first female deputy presiding officer in the Tobago House of Assembly. She's also someone who joined the party since 1956. Some of our other awardees include, and they're unable to be here at this point in time, Miss Jean Elder, a party stalwart, resident in the Port of Spain South constituency, and a direct understudy of our founding father, Dr. Eric Williams. Also joining us as an awardee here this evening is Miss Joe Newell Williams, Cynthia Alfred, Mr. Lyle Thorne from Tobago, and we have a number of other awardees. 1 or 2 surprises we have for you as well this evening. As the party chairman indicated earlier, we have a presentation from the Honourable Shamfa Kajo, who will be speaking on creating brighter opportunities for the people of Tobago, and in particular the young people. Shamfa Kajo has really defined herself as an energetic and outstanding member of parliament. She is a force to be reckoned with in the parliament, in the House of Representatives, and she's an excellent representation of the youth of Trinidad and Tobago. And so, at this point in time, we've just finished our first item of entertainment for the evening, and our party chairman, the Honourable Colm Imbert, Member of Parliament for Diego Martin North East and Minister of Finance, he will be now reconvening the meeting and taking us forward through this afternoon's formal proceedings. So I invite you to really sit back and enjoy this presentation by the People's National Movement at our annual convention, convention number 48, right here, live from Shore Park, Tobago. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
That's a short. Is it the jack?
I now call to the podium the Honorable Shamfa Kojo, Member of Parliament for Tobago West and Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs, to make a presentation on creating a brighter future for the young people of Tobago and Trinidad. Minister Kojo.
Party Chairman, Political Leader of the People's National Movement, Deputy Political Leader and Leader of Tobago Affairs, other Deputy Political Leaders of the People's National Movement, Party Executive, officers of this great party, members, friends, and supporters of the PNM family, members of the media, fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen, a warm Tobago good afternoon. It is indeed a pleasure and a distinct privilege to stand with you and before you at this, our party's 48th National Convention. I am indeed humbled by this opportunity to address you as we continue in our national development journey and our crusade for a more prosperous future for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Throughout our country's history, the People's National Movement has valiantly and consistently showed up and showed out on behalf of and in defense of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We have carried the torch from milestone to milestone, from colonialism to independence, from independence to Republican status. Our track record speaks for itself, unparalleled, second to none. And we wear that badge of honor not just at home, but throughout the Caribbean. This is the legacy of the People's National Movement that we are very proud to stand on. Everything that speaks to progress, positivity, and pride in Trinidad and Tobago carries in its DNA chromosomes of the People's National Movement. We built the schools, we developed the economy, we engineered the institutions, we even gave you national ID, national motto, and the national anthem. Examine all that is positive about our country's development. You'll find only one constant: PNM, PNM, PNM. Free education, PNM. Old age pension, PNM. Common entrance in 1961, PNM. Government assisted tertiary education, PNM. First commercial bank, PNM. Social assistant grant, PNM. PNM, PNM, PNM. So whether you like this party or not, you support us or not, it is undisputed that the People's National Movement has always been the only true national party catering to every section of the electorate and our society, dedicated to improving the lives of not just some, but all of our citizenry, despite color, creed, race, financial situation, or geographical location. And that is the hallmark of the People's National Movement. You see, we are not a political party in the narrow sense of the word, but rather we are a rally for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, coming together, working hand in hand for the common good, one common goal, and the realization of one common vision. A vision for a cohesive country of dynamic diversity where discipline, tolerance, and production are our highest priorities. A vision for us to be a leading light in the Caribbean and a respected member in the global community of nations. A vision for a healthy democracy where fundamental rights and freedoms are enjoyed by each and everybody. A vision for a vision for a progressive society where opportunities for growth, development, and realization of our dreams are fully available and accessible to everyone. This is the vision of the People's National Movement. This was our promise in 1956, and it still is our promise and our mandate now. It is on this premise that we came to you in 2015, seeking your support, asking for your hand in partnership as we advance on this journey towards the realization of this vision. We asked you to do two things: to believe and to do it together. To believe because, coming on the heels of the most oppressive and atrocious government in our nation's history, we had to find our way out of the deep, dark doldrums of despair that called for hope, that called for confidence, courage, and faith. We asked you to let's do it together because we understood the enormity of the task ahead, and we knew that we needed all hands on deck to restore order, to regain honor, and to create a future of which we could all be proud. We assumed duty. We assumed office in September 2015. Institutions denigrated. Public servants emasculated. The stench of corruption reeked from every nook and cranny of this country. We were a lawless state. We were an almost ungovernable nation. A shame, a disgrace. We had hit our all-time low. I think it was safe to call Trinidad and Tobago ground zero, with state enterprises deep in debt, bullet payments and short-term loans due, and funds to run the country for 3 days. I say funds to run the country for only 3 days. Our opponents looked on with every expectation for us to fail, hoping that we end up in the hands of the IMF like our other Caribbean neighbors. Just a couple months ago, Barbados would have sent home 3,000 workers. 3,000 workers, and they are now participating in an IMF structural adjustment program. Thank God for prudent management and wise leadership. We are not in that same place. When we assumed duties, we had two choices. We had two options: to continue to kick the can down the road, keep the borrowing growing, to maintain the yum-yum culture, the eater food mentality that was created by the UNC, knowing that one day somebody would have to pay, and not caring as long as that somebody that has to pay isn't me or the People's National Movement government. Or the other option was option two: to readjust our lifestyle and our priorities as a nation, to administer our own medicine in such a way to stay out the hands of the IMF, and to make the necessary adjustment to maintain a decent standard of living for our fellow citizens while creating new opportunities for our young people and our children. These kind of circumstances call for intelligent leadership, patience, sobriety, experience, integrity, dexterity, selflessness, and dedication. This called for a leader able to stand for what is right even if it meant standing alone, losing friends, losing popularity, even losing the next elections and the chance to keep leading the country. Talk about right man, talk about right time. The country needed a leader of integrity. The country needed a leader of integrity, and that was nobody better than our very own Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Brothers and sisters, not for a moment did we consider maintaining the feeding frenzy. Not for one moment did we consider to continue the assault on the treasury, not for likes, not for popularity, not even for the opportunity to secure the next election and to lead the country once again. In the People's National Movement, right is right and wrong is wrong. And we are duty-bound to lead with integrity and to be honest to the population about our financial situation, to do all within our power to put Trinidad and Tobago on a growth path, improving our lot and securing a brighter future for our young people and for our little children. Not a future riddled in debt because the previous leaders assaulted the treasury. Not a future confined by tight fiscal measures and sanctions imposed by foreign lending agencies. Our young people and our children deserve so much better. And this People's National Movement government stands firm on our commitment to provide avenues for growth for our most valuable resource, our youth, even if it means being unpopular. And so we ask you to stand with us as we convert calamity to opportunity. We ask you to stand with us to stabilize the economy. We ask you to stand with us to restore faith, confidence, and hope. And we ask you to stand with us in building a brighter tomorrow. So we have had to make the painstaking, difficult decisions, and we have had to take the harsh, unpopular, but necessary actions. We started by cutting back Christmas parties and unnecessary travel. We reviewed and revised social programs, redirecting help to the people who need it most. We put an end to the operations and systems that are no longer beneficial to the welfare of the country in exchange for the establishment of new, more sustainable, profitable arrangements. You see, our stewardship is not based on winning the next election, but it is based on securing a prosperous future for our generations. Our focus is on people-centered development, not political expediency or personal aggrandizement. And therein, my friends, lays the beauty and the bounty of this brand that we call the great People's National Movement. So it is in this light that we have focused on resuscitating the economy and replenishing the treasury, because this love of liberty is so central to who we are as a people and our expectations from our government. The standard of living to which we have become so accustomed has a high price tag. The social programs that help to put food on the table of the less fortunate, that has a high price tag. Senior citizens and little children's assistance programs, that has a high price tag. The state of subsidized pension plan, that has a high price tag. Fully subsidized education and transportation, ladies and gentlemen, all these things have a very high price tag. So it is a robust, resilient, and strong economy that makes all these things affordable, enjoyable, accessible, and possible. Tell me, what good is your degree if you cannot find a job in a stagnant economy? How could your application or tender document stand a fair chance if every institution is riddled with corruption? How useful is your business plan if there is no support to get you started? To this end, we have gone the extra mile to explore new horizons and secure new opportunities for our citizens. Despite the crying of critics, naysayers, and fearmongers, in August of this year, we braved our way to Venezuela to advance an energy security agreement with President Maduro. Then we journeyed to Guyana to advance South-South trade and economic cooperation agreements with the Guyanese government. There we were, and I had the opportunity to bear witness, pushing the envelope, taking the stance so that all young people could have a better chance. Just last week, ladies and gentlemen, we signed a gas sales agreement between NGC and Nutrien. extending contracts for the next 5 years, and ensuring that 4 ammonia plants and 1 urea plant remain part of our energy infrastructure. This, brothers and sisters, signifies investors' confidence in our economy. Another one of my favorite is the Labre dry docking facility, which would provide over 20,000 jobs, both directly and indirectly. Fitters, electricians, assemblers, welders, mechanics. This project and so many other government interventions speak not just to job creation, but also to commercial activity, income generation, and the much sought after economic diversification. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to bring it closer to home, because never before in the history of this country have we seen a government place such a deliberate and elaborate focus on Tobago's development. We have experienced promise after promise in the past, disappointment after disappointment. We have waited decades for this type of laser focus and this magnitude of investment in Tobago. And we are very, very, very happy to be here at this time in this place, celebrating a leader and a government that speak to Tobago and our needs. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we journey down to Cove, where we would commission a $132 million expansion of the Cove Power Station to facilitate a 20 megawatt upgrade to Tobago's existing 64 megawatt output. We are increasing capacity to support the island's growing economy. The Wassa wastewater treatment project is well on its way, and Wassa is working assiduously to produce more water in order to service the island's activities. For as long as we could remember, we grappled with inter-island transportation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been provided with the Galleon's Passage, which we own and maintain, and we have entered into arrangements with Australia to secure 2 top-class, high-quality inter-island fast ferry vessels to service the inter-island sea bridge. These would be owned by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and this is very critical to our island's development. Thank you to the PNM. I am very pleased to see the Tobago Tourism Agency spreading its wings and making waves, now fully responsible for marketing and the development of Tobago's tourism. This government stands resolute in our commitment to assist Tobago in its development, in its tourism development trust. To this end, last Friday, the Cabinet announced its decision to advance the process of the establishment of a marina and marina-related facilities for Tobago. This would have serious positive implications for business development on the island, for tourism and for real estate. Plans for the expansion of the Crown Point Airport are moving full speed ahead. Finally, we can look forward to an airport of international quality with business facilities to attract high-end guests and to service our new and booming economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I move now to Sandals. I remember being a student at Signal Hill Senior Comprehensive in my economics class and in my geography class. We spoke glowingly of days and dreams of attracting a brand like Sanders. I remember returning home from university in 2008, and former Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly was interviewed by Contact magazine about the state of tourism and development in Tobago. Back then, he hoped that Tobago would be able to attract a reputable international brand like Sandals, and here we are. 10 years later, at the cusp of making this dream a reality. The Sandals Beaches project would change the game and up the ante for tourism in Tobago. And we want to say thank you to the People's National Movement. This project would bring airlift, marketing, foreign investment, jobs to Tobago, an activity that we so greatly need. Our neighbors in the Caribbean have been benefiting from Sandals powerhouse for decades. St. Lucia is now about to get its 4th Sandals, and Barbados is on its 2nd. Tobago is finally in line to get its first. I am therefore befuddled by the naysayers who claim to love Tobago so much, but don't seem to want anything good for Tobago. I look on in disgust as a member of parliament describing her contribution that Tobago is too small to manage or even have desire for the development of this magnitude. Mendacious and mischievous political miscreants all of a sudden found a Tobago identity, but seem not to want to support anything that contributes to the advancement of the Tobago economy. Put them in Mason Hall and ask them to meet you in Mariah. They don't know if to go east, west, north, or south. Ladies and gentlemen, Tobagoans, I call on all of you to remain focused. Don't be distracted by their folly. When they had the opportunity to fix the country's problems, they turned a blind eye on the most dire situations. They put laser focus on and saw to the completion projects that benefited only their friends, their family, and the supporters of their party. 4 years of their leadership, the airport down at Crown Point Airport, Arthur A&R Robinson Airport was cordoned off, and we believe that work was taking place there. They came and they demitted office, and not a hammer lifted, not a brick laid. These are people that are not concerned about the advancement of Tobago. So I'm proud to say today that the future of Tobago is indeed bright, and we are calling on our young people to lead and to take charge. As the youngest member of this cabinet and as the minister with responsibility to youth, I must say that I am pleased to be a part of a party and an administration that places so much focus on youth development in Trinidad and Tobago. We have gone the distance to provide support in so many areas, expanding programs that exist and creating new ones. As it relates to education, we are now revising our scholarship program so that we can give support to the areas that are best suited for the future development of Trinidad and Tobago. We are now in the process of building ECC schools here in Tobago, at least 5 of them. We have initiated programs of leadership skills and personal development through the LEAP program. We have expanded YTEP, NSEC, and MIC programs so that we can provide the necessary support to the young people of Trinidad and Tobago. Here in Tobago, we have the YES program, getting young people ready for the world of work, helping them in establishing their own businesses. And next week, thank you to the Minister of Agriculture, we will launch the Agriculture Incentive Program in Tobago, where you could get up to $100,000 in support for food processing and other agri-related businesses. We are partnering with entities like the Global Campaign for Youth Employment and the Prince's Trust to expand our programs to the young people of Trinidad and Tobago, and these programs will be launched in January. Ladies and gentlemen, we have provided these opportunities to you. You have some work to do. In looking at the history of nations and their evolution, this would show you that a country's development takes place in cycles: depression, recovery, and growth. The success of a nation after depression usually depends on how best it uses its downtime. During the time of depression, what strategies did you employ? Did you do nothing? Did you continue to kick the can down the road in fine UNC style? Did you take the hard decisions to ensure survival and to facilitate growth? What did you do? How did you prepare yourself? I want to encourage you. Success of any initiative of the government does not depend solely on the government, but primarily on the people. Whether or not we recover or succeed is based on the resilience of our people. The irony of life and politics is the never-ending competition between hope and fear. In your time of depression, are you hopeful or are you overwhelmed by fear? You see, those mendacious and mischievous miscreants know that as human beings, we are more likely to lean on the side of fear, to focus on what we have not yet accomplished rather than look at what we have achieved. So they play on your emotions, stoking fear, fake news, organized and paid protests, even unadulterated lies and violent assault. But we in the People's National Movement, we continue to stand on hope because we are cognizant of our duty, mindful of our responsibility, and confident based on our experience and our ability. We have led this country through cataclysmic change over 65 years. We were built for this. We are not afraid. When those fraudsters had the opportunity to resolve the problems of this country, they squandered it. They overspent their time raiding the treasury, feeding at the trough, and building pumpkin house. All of a sudden, they have all the answers, obstructing our nation's progress, making mayhem. They want to offer me advice, drunk like bat in the People's Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, in 3 years, this People's National Movement government has come a long way. We are in a better place as a government. We have weathered the storm and we are moving valiantly towards the light at the end of the tunnel. And if we have your support, the support of the people and the cooperation of our young ones, imagine what we can do for this nation in 2 more years. Forged from the love of liberty, we created these opportunities for all young people who dare to dream big dreams, who dare to do what they want to do and be who they want to be. So we expect our youth to pursue these opportunities with faith, courage, and alacrity, and with boundless faith in their destiny, working towards the achievement of the Trinidad and Tobago we set out to build when we created this great party. As Dr. Williams would have said at the youth rally on August 30th in 1962, this nation is on the march. There is no turning back. The road from now only leads forward and only forward. Your responsibility, therefore, is a very heavy one. If you shirk it, you betray our nation. If you fail in that responsibility, you jeopardize our nation. And those are the words of the founding father that are still so relevant today. This time is your time, and that time is now. We are the ones we have been waiting on. The future of Trinidad and Tobago is in our hands. If not us, who? If not now, when? I urge all our young people to stand up and claim your space. Stand up and be counted. This is a clarion call for the youth of our nation. Let us recommit, work together hand in hand. No giving up, no giving in. This time around is for the young people and our children. No retreat, brothers and sisters, no surrender. People's National Movement forever and ever. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Kudjo. And now, before we hear the address from our esteemed political leader, we would have a short 5-minute session from Mr. Sharlan Bailey, son of Winston Bailey. Sharlan is an accomplished musician, music producer, and songwriter in his own right. Let's welcome Sharlan Bailey.
One, two. Yes, good afternoon, Tobago. Good afternoon, Shore Park. I'm calling for you to answer me. Good afternoon, Shore Park. Well, we go and pay a little tribute to the late Dr. Winston Bailey, my partner. Now. But you know he was a messenger. So I go and try some of the message things. And if all you know it, I surely could sing. Right? So you go try it together. When a man is born in luxury, it proves to me through history that he is somebody. But when a man is born in poverty, starvation and misery, he is nobody. Your turn, 'cause everybody is nobody is nobody. From the poor to all the wealthy. Your turn again. Next one. Must do this one. Man can change my destination. Man can lead to suffocation. Man can treat me very evil. Man can get me into trouble. Man can take my life, take my wife, leave me in grief, but no man can take my belief. Your turn. For I believe in the little children. I believe you can rob me, you can cheat me, you can beat me, you can take off my eye, you can tell me a lie. You too much immortals. Mr. Engineer, you give me plenty monitors there, boy. Yeah, man. I hear all this thing, right? You see this one? This song now is an important song. So this one I expect you to sing the hardest, right? All they promise? All they sound like all they promising, you know. Or they'll say like they want to tell me go home. Right? So this is an important one. And we're singing it loud. Right? the world is all I have to say. Peace in my soul. I would like to see the day, a world of peacefulness, happiness, and together. I would like to see the day where love will come to stay. Your turn. It'd be such happiness to see such a unity, one love. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, oh, oh. I look around and all that I can see is hatred and confusion throughout humanity. No peacefulness, no happiness, no other. I would like to see the day where love will come to stay. Sing it with me. It'd be such happiness to see such a unity, one love. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, oh, oh. Are we gonna give it chorus? I would like to see the day where love will come to stay. Sing it. A little harder, yeah. It'd be such happiness to see such a unity. Let your love you know. I would like to see the day where love will come to stay. It'd be such happiness to see such a unity. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Charlene. For those of you who don't know, Charlene has been performing at Kaiser House since 2003, for 15 years.
Well, wow, what a performance. What a
Boy,
performance. Shadow
great,
lives
great.
on.
Yeah, I tell you, great,
Shadow
great,
lives
man.
on.
Lives on,
One
definitely.
love. Definitely
One love.
One love here this afternoon. And he's
call to
coming
stage
right
the political
after
leader, Dr. Keith
Sham
Rowley,
for the
the
Honorable
Lady
Sham
Vice Chairman,
Show.
the General Secretary,
Honorable
and
MP for Tobago.
Man, what a spirited performance. I mean, you know, she really gave gives a good history of what the party is doing and what it is that is required to make us for what we need to be aware of. It was really fantastic.
Very comprehensive. And
Yeah, very
early
powerful presentation. And I think what she really touched on is the brand name of the PNM. Everything in this country that you could look to progress, development, it's stamped PNM, and Shamfa really brought that out in her presentation today. You know, I feel extremely proud to say that, you know, she was my colleague in the Senate, and now she is Minister of Youth.
Good afternoon.
You know, and I mean, what she was even talking about, that she even went into all of these projects and detail. I mean, in this particular, I was glad that she talked a lot about this Sandals project. I mean, for example, you know, I have spent a lot of time in Barbados, and I understand the power of what tourism could actually do to an economy. So it was really glad to hear her really coming out and really talking about this Sandals project, and I mean the benefit that it can have. And a lot of people who like to argue about the Sandals project, they don't live in Tobago. I mean, I was here, I was the chamber president at Tobago. I understand the tourism and the value of tourism in this country.
Joel, you know, at the 47th convention, you know, the party, there was a resolution to honor members, and I think that today is in a sense the PNM doing that. You know, as we go stage side now, they're going to be honoring, the PNM is going to be honoring 14 individuals for human service. And in the background, we have our public relations officer who is announcing those persons. So let's go stage side and take a look at that.
Commemorating this auspicious occasion. Our first awardee is His Excellency Orville London. Orville London's name is synonymous with quality education in Tobago. A teacher by profession, Mr. London always sought the interest of his students and his community first and foremost. In 1993, while still the very much loved principal at the then Signal Hill Senior Comprehensive School, Mr. London journeyed to Trinidad to have political discussions with one Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. He indicated that he would give serious consideration to joining the party if the next election was not favorable to the PNM. An honest man, true to his word, he joined the PNM post the loss of 1995. He was appointed as an opposition senator and then contested in 1996 the Tobago House of Assembly, where he lost by 4 votes. As Assembly Minority Leader, William Mackenzie appointed Orville London as councillor, where he served until 2001. And for that 4-year period, the duo of William Mackenzie and Orville London, buoyed by passionate members of the PNM in Tobago, so strongly impacted the politics in Tobago that the Assembly that it was inevitable that the PNM would take the reins at the next THA election. He was then appointed the first Chief Secretary of the PNM Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly and served for 16 years. During his tenure, he also served as Secretary of Finance and Secretary of Education. Approachable, articulate, and relatable, this distinguished alum of UWI's Institute of International Relations was diplomatic long before the boy from Palatuvier was appointed as our country's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. He commands respect and is an exceptional leader. He is practical, and he has never turned his back on the PNM. For your long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Your Excellency Ambassador Orville London, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Our next awardee is Mrs. Joan Yule Williams. For her willingness to allow those who came after her to stand on her shoulders, and for her long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement, we are pleased to bestow upon you, Mrs. Joan Yule Williams, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. One of the most widely respected political figures to have ever graced the political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago is Dr. Lenny Seith. Dedicated, strategic, visionary, and humble, for his long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon Dr. Lenny Seith the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. To receive on Dr. Seith's behalf, we invite His Worship the Mayor of San Fernando, Alderman Junior Regrello. Hedgeridge Barrow is a true icon of Libre. His deliberate, conscientious, and scientific nature has caused him to be a leader in shaping party policy, debates at General Council, and other technical matters. His wise counsel is often sought by many in the party. Sharp, precise, and consistent, for his long, exceptional, and meritorious service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Mr. Hedgeridge Barrow, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Mention the name Lyle Thorne anywhere in Tobago, and in many PNM circles you are guaranteed to be greeted with a smile, a laugh, a fond memory, or some exciting PNM tale. A true soldier, servant leader, and a political giant in his own right. For long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Mr. Lyle Thorne, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. As a teenager not yet able to vote, Cynthia Alfred deliberately joined the People's National Movement upon its formation in 1956. Her colorful and distinguished political career saw her serve in every sphere of the party, and more importantly, saw her greatly influence and shape the PNM in Tobago as we know it today. In the days of being in the wilderness in Tobago, Cynthia Alfred stood for the party she loved and believed in. Disciplined, progressive, and inspirational, for her long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Miss Cynthia Alfred, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Jarrett Narine comes from a family of service and community involvement. His political career is defined not only by his big booming voice, but by his humility and his ability to remain a man on the ground in the service of his people. His affable nature endeared him to all with whom he came into contact. Dynamic, eloquent, and relatable. For his long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Mr. Jarrett Narang, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. As the premier elder in the party, Mr. Ovran Padmore is considered the PNM's encyclopedia, with an expansive knowledge base of all things PNM and Trinidad and Tobago. He has served the party and the country at a number of levels, and most recently, he emerged victorious at the September 30th internal polls and is currently serving as your education officer. A statesman, an elder, a wise PNM sage, and a man loved by all. For his long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Mr. Ovran Padmore, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. In 1961, 5 years after the establishment of the PNM, then 28-year-old Neil Wilson joined Williams's party, and since then, he has never looked back, nor has he strayed. He is easily considered a foundation member of the PNM in Tobago. When the PNM commanded little attention in Tobago, Neil Wilson was the shoulder upon which the PNM leaned. Dedicated, passionate, affable, and well-respected. For his long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Mr. Neil Wilson, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Deodath Jack Oja Marahaj, the product of a politically astute family from Las Lomas, has been a quiet, steadfast, dedicated, and relevant member of the party. He served as the party's acting general secretary in the wake of the 1986 loss. He faithfully put the needs of his party and his country as a priority, with tremendous support from his wife and children. To this day, he continues to be available to his party, serving, guiding, mentoring, and advising. Humble, brilliant, and dedicated, for your long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Mr. Deodath Oja Marahaj, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Humble, unassuming, gentle, and loyal, Miss Jean Victoria Elder is a living stalwart of the People's National Movement. She has been a staple of the PNM in all of its endeavors. History shows that she was one of 3 students who Dr. Williams used to do research on to form the early structure of the party. Industrious, committed, and hardworking, for her long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon Miss Jean Elder the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Executive Member of the Port of Spain South Constituency, Mr. Ken Taylor, will collect on behalf of Miss Elder, who is unable to be here, but who is watching our live television broadcast. Stories of his solitary yet efficacious presence at the Tobago House of Assembly have been told for generations on this island and have cemented him as a PNM hero and a legend in the local political landscape. He is a deeply rooted community man, served as an assemblyman for Buko Lambo since 1980, and is deeply involved in sporting and community affairs. Although he held no official role within the party, he co-championed the 1998 establishment of the Tobago Council. Loyal to the core, hardworking, and with unquestionable commitment, for his long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon Mr. William Mackenzie the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Marilyn Gordon is most deserving of recognition by the People's National Movement. Described as a woman of tremendous strength and political acumen, she continues to be a loyal and dedicated member of the PNM, demonstrating a willingness to serve her country and her party whenever called upon. She is passionate about young people and often asks the youth, what is the legacy that they will leave? A genuine role model, a person of substance and integrity. For your long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, the People's National Movement is pleased to bestow upon you, Miss Marilyn Gordon, the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. Mentor, friend, confidant, leader, supporter, master planner. Martin Joseph brought his management skills to the party and to the political arena. He operated with high levels of integrity and insisted upon a high level of accountability. He served with the greatest distinction as the General Secretary of the People's National Movement. His tactical and strategic mindset allowed him to be the party's campaign manager for a number of elections, and he is credited with laying the groundwork for the party's victory at the 2015 general election. Erudite, strategic, disciplined, and loyal, for his long, exceptional, and outstanding service to our party, we are pleased to bestow upon the late Mr. Martin Joseph the Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. His brother-in-law, Alderman Wendell Stephen, will receive the award on the request of his sister, Martin's wife, Claire. Ladies and gentlemen, those are your 14 awardees, recipients of the inaugural Dr. Eric Williams Medal of Honor. I wish to thank our members of the leadership for the role they have played in this session.
Let's go.
And I now wish to invite the Honourable Orville London to present a reply on behalf of the awardees.
You come in?
Chairman, Mr. Colm Imbert, political leader and Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, members of Cabinet, members of Parliament, Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles, and other members of the Assembly, members of the National Executive, delegates, members and supporters. And let me first, on behalf of all of us awardees, congratulate those who would have conceptualized this idea to pay further tribute to the father of the nation and to emphasize the fact that Dr. Williams did father an elder child, and he named that child the People's National Movement. We appreciate the signal honor that has been bestowed on us as the first recipients of this award, and we are grateful and humbled. On a personal note, I am proud to share this moment and this stage with this powerful group of PNM stalwarts, and to share with you the memory of our dear departed brother, Martin Joseph. And as I looked at my colleagues, I concluded that although our CVs might read differently, there is one common qualification among us, and that is we can all speak about service to country, service to community, service to people, through service to the People's National Movement. And therefore, this is a tribute not just to us, but to the PNM, for what it stands for and for what it has contributed over the decades. As Dr. Williams expressed in his early years, the PNM are about inclusion. And the people who have traversed this stage over the last few minutes, they personify inclusion. We came from different backgrounds, different geographical locations, and even social strata. But we, although we have varied ethnicities and religious persuasions, we have always felt comfortable working with each other and working within a political organization where your major responsibilities is to utilize your unique set of skills, talent, experience, and expertise to serve the party and the people. And I want to tell you, it should be no different for any PNM member. And that is why we continue and will continue to see ourselves just as representatives. Representatives of all those who would have supported us, guided us, criticized us, inspired us, and thereby enhance our capacity to serve, to contribute, and to make a positive difference. And brothers and sisters, this is also what the PNM is about and has always been about, making a positive difference. When things are good, we make them better. When the situation is bad, we fix it. And if there was ever a fix-it time in this country, it is now. So I implore you, as we go through this latest fix-it period, there might be moments of frustration, even doubt. But I wish to remind all of us that one of the reasons why we, the awardees, were on this stage receiving these awards is that regardless of the circumstances, we remain committed to the party, even in the worst of times. And I want to tell you, it was not out of blind loyalty, but it was with the confidence that as long as we remain focused, realistic, and united, Trinidad and Tobago and the PNM will weather any storm. And I want to take it from me. We ought to know. Because I would not venture to guess how many centuries of institutional knowledge was present on this stage this afternoon. We have lived the history. I am certain of that. We can tell the PNM story. And I say to you this afternoon that there are two words that remain constant throughout that PNM history. And those two words are commitment and capacity. Commitment to making a positive change and capacity to effect that change. Commitment and capacity, brothers and sisters, are what we need now. And I'm asking one favor from all you PNM people. In these challenging times, difficult decisions have to be taken and sacrifices have to be made. But as we battle through the next period, and I will call it the next phase of the recovery, I am urging you, we, the awardees, are urging you to recall the PNM's history, its track record of service, its rescue acts, time and time again over the years. From 1956, the PNM has led this country through its greatest achievements and through its most turbulent periods. We are being called upon for yet another rescue act. And I am confident, in fact I am certain, that we have the leadership. However, we the people, we the PNM have to provide that commitment and capacity that will ensure that Trinidad and Tobago is steered to a safer harbor. Brothers and sisters, as I conclude, I want to remind you that we, the awardees, have served long. And it's not that we're tired and ready to rest, but I think we deserve some relaxation. I know about me, and I believe that I speak for my colleagues when I say that the only way that we'll be able to relax is when we get a commitment from all gathered here, all our members and supporters, that they'll do everything possible to ensure that this island and this country remain in the caring and capable hands of this leader and this people's national good. And if you do that, and the country and the island remain in the capable hands and the caring hands of the People's National Movement in the foreseeable future, all of us, we the awardees and you the people, will be well rewarded. I thank you.
Thank you very much, former Chief Secretary Orville London. We'll now have Minister Ayanna Webster-Roy, Member of Parliament for Tobago East, to introduce our political leader.
That man. We're on, we're live, we're back. What a tribute. I have mixed emotions right now.
That was
the great is the PNM, boy.
14 of our best.
Commitment, capacity, and those individuals, I mean, you know, that level of commitment and capacity that he spoke about. Unparalleled.
I have mixed emotions. My mentors were on the stage, my former boss, His Excellency Honorable Orville London, you know, Mr. Wilson, Sir Padmore, but we have to go stateside now, but you know, PNM again.
That is definitely something
world-class leadership. So let's go stage there. MP Ayanna Webster-Roy, MP for Tobago East, as she introduces the Honorable Prime Minister.
He does not set out to be a leader, but becomes one by the quality of his actions and the integrity of his content. Speaking to those who love him, confidence, courage, and compassion are the traits the man we are fortunate to call our political leader and Prime Minister. His peers describe him as a brilliant mind and an excellent strategist. His constituents describe him as a compassionate representative who is supportive, generous, and approachable. To his friends, he is the life of the party, an excellent storyteller, and a competitive sportsman. To his family, he is a loving and devoted provider, protector, and prayer warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, PNM family, it is my honor to present to you our beloved political leader and Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley.
PNM family, tell me, are you ready? To build back a country, we forwarded with Kid Rowley. Well, are you ready then? Let's do this. Tobago, are you ready?
Party Chairman, Mr. Colum Imbert, other party officers, my cabinet colleagues, all members of Parliament of the Lower House and the Senate, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly and leader of the PNM Island Council in Tobago, Mr. Kelvin Charles and his team, Secretaries of the Tobago House of Assembly, mayors, chairmen, officials of the Diplomatic Corps, specially invited guests, executive members, party members, well-wishers, and supporters of the PNM, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, citizens all. I greet you warmly in the name of the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, it is common practice that when something happens for the first time and even the second time, it is cause for noting and sometimes reason for celebration. Today is such a day, not only in the PNM, but in all of Trinidad and Tobago, especially Tobago, since this is the second time in the 62-year history of the People's National Movement that our party's annual convention is being held here in Tobago. But let me begin by offering my own very special congratulations to all our awardees today. They who have toiled tirelessly in the vineyards and held the fort through thick and thin, always committed to the highest ideals of this venerable organization, confident in the belief that great is the PNM and we shall prevail. We thank you, we honor you, we are humbled by your outstanding record of service to party and country. A special welcome to all our Tobago members and supporters who have rallied here from Charlottesville to Crown Point, from Black Rock to Mariah by way of Mason Hall. Welcome to this convention. Notwithstanding all that you have heard, Tobago is still here, green, clean, and serene, open for business and relaxation, come rain or shine. I want to thank all the members of the Tobago Council, all our party members for rising to the occasion to ensure that what happens here is as good as or better than what might have happened elsewhere in our country. I must extend my sincerest thanks and appreciation to the newly elected executive who have been working overtime and who, in the shortest of time, have demonstrated their zeal and competence in putting together this historic annual convention. As we are here in Tobago today, in this very overwhelmingly beautiful place, let us not forget our fellow citizens in the south of Trinidad, many of whom are underwater at this time and who are attracting the attention of our service providers. The Minister of Works is absent from here. He's down there with the team, and we trust that very soon the water will recede and our citizens will return to comfort. And all that is available in support of those citizens will continue to be available from the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago. Fellow party members, I want to ask you to reflect for a moment on this small but inspiring fact. Our party, this party, is the only political party that has contested every single seat in every election in Tobago since 1956. And the same holds true across the country. No other political party or political entity, pick-up side or otherwise, in our nation could make that claim, not even in joke. It's a record that sets us apart from all others. It's a record of commitment and pride. Seeing that there are so many Tobagonians here this evening, and since we are in Tobago, this is a good opportunity for me to report to you, the people of Tobago, who are on this island, who might not have been paying attention to the rest of the country and its affairs during recent times. Permit me to tell you some of what your party has accomplished. We have operated a smaller than normal cabinet, saving at least $120 million in overall administrative expenses. 23 members of the government as against 33. We have returned honest government to the corridors of power in Trinidad and Tobago. In doing so, we have staved off looming bankruptcy as we stabilize the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. We have fought off recession and turned the corner towards economic growth. We have fixed the festering wounds of protracted gas shortages and month-to-month contracts in the energy sector. We are restructuring Petrotrin in order to give a loss-making entity a chance for prosperity. We are partnering with a Chinese investor who is willing to invest in a dry dock in La Brea. We have protected public service jobs, borrowing $5 billion to pay back pay without engaging in any mass retrenchment in the public service. We have appointed a commissioner of police in Trinidad and Tobago. And may I say, ladies and gentlemen, we are the only government, only political party that could have comfortably appointed to the post of commissioner of police a former minister of government in another government, in another party, and have it accepted by the country. And when we say, let's do this, and that we are all in this together, we mean best man for the job, and we are all in this together. We are rebuilding and expanding the nation's infrastructure. We have the first batch of 200 municipal police officers in training, soon to pass out in December. We are paying off approximately $200 million in debt owed to UWI, and in the process we are establishing a university hospital at Couva to enhance teaching, healthcare delivery for local and international parents, as well as local and foreign students. This initiative is expected to also eventually involve the Tobago Hospital at some time in the not too distant future. We have fought in the court and recovered $15 billion of your money from CLICO. We have established the National Investment Fund, the NIF, which was oversubscribed by a whopping 82%. We fought in the international courts and successfully recovered $921 million from bonds which were left to the bankrupt OAS contractor who abandoned the San Fernando to Point 14 highway with the assistance and blessings of the UNC government. We have increased your taxable allowance from $70,000 per year to $72,000. We reduced VAT from 15% to 12.5%. We reduced the fuel subsidy, thereby directing or redirecting billions of dollars from transportation expenses to the schools, the hospitals, to housing and social services for the neediest. We have improved old age pension and social support grants. We have completed the abandoned Brian Lara Stadium at Taruba, which today is the major venue of the popular Caribbean Professional League. Work is proceeding apace at the Dwight York Stadium here in Tobago and the Diego Martin Sporting Complex, which is 99% complete, graces the cover of our document today. We are proud of that. And in Tobago, you were told this afternoon that we have expanded electricity production at Cove in Tobago to satisfy the needs and the growth of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, we have begun the process of social and economic transformation unlike any period on this island of Tobago. And we expect that in the coming months, the island and its people will begin to see the many benefits of major initiatives which are currently underway. These are four major initiatives. One, Sandals Golden Grove project. The necessary preparatory work has been proceeding satisfactorily. We have an agreed memorandum of understanding in place. We have done all the initial land surveys and are engaged in ownership transactions with the CLF liquidator. We have made the necessary submissions to the EMA, and at this stage of the process, we are required to hold all the necessary public consultations, which we will do according to law. A delegation from Sandals is due here for discussions with the designated government team in the second week of December. With respect to the airport in Tobago, a request for proposal was published on Monday, November 5th. NIDCO is handling this project for the Ministry of Finance and the THA, and it involves the construction of a new terminal building and associated works at the ANR International Airport. Submissions closed in February 2019, at which time an evaluation will be done and the successful contractor financier will be selected, and construction should commence later in 2019. With respect to the Sea Bridge, ladies and gentlemen, we have ordered 2 new state-of-the-art passenger ferries and have already made the initial payments on both. Construction is about to begin at Austral and Incat shipyards in Australia and due for delivery in 2020. In the meantime, as we dispose of the TT Express, we expect to lease another vessel to accompany the Spirit and the Galleon passage during 2019. In response to a public request for proposal earlier this year for a Tobago Marina facility, we received 2 proposals. An evaluation was done by a team selected by the Ministry of Finance and the THA, and the developer was recommended to a cabinet subcommittee which accepted the recommendations. Cabinet meeting here in Tobago last Friday accepted the recommendations of the subcommittee, so we can now proceed to have the necessary actions taken to facilitate the construction of a major marina facility at Cano Bay. This marina, which would be one of the few in the region, which is outside of the main hurricane highway, is expected to attract major offshore and onshore business in Tobago as a safe haven for the yachting and boating industry of the entire region. Funding has been provided for the improvements in public ground transportation in Tobago, with a new bus terminus to be constructed in Scarborough shortly. We are of the view that given this island's unrivaled beauty, its food, its culture, and the warmth of its people, this paradise of Tobago is a unique offering that can and must not only compete in the world tourist market, but could sensibly and carefully use to expand and make tourism the foundation of a viable and sustainable tourism economy. Tobago could be out front in the re-engineering and diversification of the Trinidad and Tobago economy in having a world-scale resort and marina tourism on this island. The internationally renowned Sandals Resort will not only bring their global operational expertise to the table and the power of the best all-inclusive brand in the world, that brand would bring the much sought-after airline traffic and effective hospitality training for which it is now famous in the industry. I would like to say to you here in Tobago, be very careful. Be very careful to who you're listening to. In this country, we have a backward habit of being so partisan, so polarized by petty political ambition, that we will oppose any project simply because it wasn't our idea. It is that kind of partisan approach that has stunted our growth and multiplies small molehills into big mountains, which serve only to deprive our people of opportunity for betterment and prosperity. We have people throughout our society who are chronic dividers, excuse me, captured by self and partisan interests. The ones that always cry down the country. I'm sure you know them all. Thankfully, we have many other voices of people in our society who are multipliers. And I can say to you today, patriots, work hard, do good, and multiply the opportunities for positive growth wherever they are located in our society. And I'm sure you know those too. There are others who oppose because it's usually too good an idea to allow the government to execute. They oppose because the government, if it gets through, would look too good, and we must block it at all costs because it's not in our personal or political interests. That is the root of the crabs in a barrel syndrome. That is the extreme cost of putting party before country or putting self before the nation. I say to you in the PNM, that is what is good for the country is good for the party. And I seldom give advice to the opposition, but today I will tell them what is good for the country is better for the struggling party. There's also the matter of the large number of construction jobs that will be created, as well as the permanent direct and indirect jobs, not only during construction, but after construction that will be available for those who are seeking long-term employment. Give Tobago young people a chance, which they do not have now, to choose and build careers, which they do not have now, and to realize their dreams of becoming successful entrepreneurs. The projects mentioned will add significant value to the tourism sector of both Tobago and Trinidad. I assure you our plans for tourism in Tobago are diverse and multifaceted and bigger than just one hotel. We intend to offer the existing local hotels much of what might come to Sandals concession as stimulants to improve the quality of their product. A major agricultural access road program under the THA is currently underway, and WASA is paying attention to improvements of the island's water supply. All of these initiatives aim towards preparing and presenting Tobago as the newest and happiest and most attractive location in the Caribbean at this time of the 21st century. Having presented to you what by any standard can only be viewed as an impressive line of accomplishment and development initiatives, particularly against the background of the most difficult of circumstances, permit me to address a few issues of wider national import. I speak here about our involvement in the energy sector. Our oil company has crashed under the weight of mismanagement, inefficiency, and lack of productivity. Petrotrin's debt and losses were threatening the country's economy and sovereign ratings. As a people, we seem unconcerned to the decade-old reality that we owned an oil company that should be enriching our lives, but instead, in the singular case of Trinidad and Tobago, our oil company was taking us straight to the national financial downgrade of junk bond status. Our oil company stopped exploring for or producing new oil. What was even worse is that the oil being produced was being delivered to the refinery that was refining it as a chronic money loser, mainly accompanied by 100,000 barrels a day of imported crude. Ladies and gentlemen, after 100 years of oil production and generations of Trinidadians and Tobagonians knowing that the higher the price of oil, the better our country's fortunes, we had reached the unfathomable reverse position where the higher the price of oil, the worse our country's fortunes and the more money we set to lose at the refinery. Petrotrin had to be restructured for the benefit of all our 1.3 million people, all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to give us a new chance at prosperity by replacing a chronic money-losing model with a profit-making one. The PNM didn't establish Petrotrin to be about politics versus labor, or about overblown egos in politics or in labor. It was about one thing. It was about facing up to creating prosperity for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That prosperity now beckons through restructuring of the company and retooling our overall efforts to do it right on the way forward. Only the PNM will accept the responsibility for this assignment. Others will see us drowning in red ink in Pointe-a-Pierre, but wouldn't put a hand for fear of losing their positions, even if it means losing the country in the process. What we do here is about being true to our oath of office. It's about making decisions without fear or favor, without malice or ill will, and using our political will in putting the country before party and office. I think it's the fundamental difference between your humble servant as Prime Minister and the one you just fired in 2015. Fear of losing office caused them to hide 5 years of billions of dollars of losses in Petrotrin's books. It is that fear that caused the last Prime Minister to spend this country into bankruptcy, pandering to every insatiable desire. She mortgaged and spent every cent of the billions in the Green Fund. She cleared out and squandered $16 billion in NGC account. They sold half of FCB and spent that too. The inquiry into that IPO is still going on. You forgot that? The inquiry into the FCB IPO, insider trading, is still going on. And after 3 years in government, this government has no idea what the answer is to that. And all of this, in addition to the 5 largest budgets ever used by any government in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to ask you here in Tobago, to ask the minions here in Tobago and other proxies, what do you have here in Tobago to show for that 5-year period? Point to one project in Tobago to lift the people of Tobago for all of that squandermania of the billions I just mentioned. And I alerted this country on the enormity and seriousness of the Petrotrin situation several times, starting with an address to the nation almost 2 years ago. Over the course of a year, we reviewed, consulted, and deliberated with experts, stakeholders, and professionals in order to arrive at an informed decision. When the decision was made, we were doing it in the interest of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. From here in Tobago to Toco, from Arima and San Fernando to Palo Seco and Point 14, from Caranash to Sangre Grande. I am sure that you know that leadership is about making right decisions, not just making the easy ones. It's because we in the PNM are government of all and for all that we are taking great care to soften the obvious stress to the employees, their families, and the fence line communities directly affected by concentrating development in the southern peninsula from San Fernando and environs to La Brea and Point 14. The several packages for workers have been announced in an excess of $2.6 billion package, and workers have to their benefit and their benefit alone an $11 billion pension fund. In addition to this, I have directed the Minister of Finance to take necessary steps to lift the tax-free limit on separated Petrotrin workers from $300,000 to $500,000, leaving more cash in the hands of the workers to help get them over this hurdle. This would cost an additional $150 million, but it leaves about $50,000 more in the hands of every affected family. But if you listen to those with other conversations and other agendas, you will believe that we are pushing them over a cliff and turning our backs on them. 100 years after being in the oil business, we are drifting into difficulty. But I can say we are finding our way back towards prosperity, and we are seeing the light. The company is now being restructured, and I am pleased to report that we have sold our first tanker of local crude, and we have been paid in hard currency, and we are now restored to a familiar position that the higher the oil price, the better the fortunes of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The losses at the refinery have stopped, and it's now a standalone asset that is open for proposals. We have also imported and distributed the first batch of imported fuel. And I must tell you, we are one hell of a set of people here. Long before we put the imported fuel in the market, people in Trinidad and Tobago start to notice that the fuel burning out in their gas tank faster. Will you think it easy? Our goal is a complete turnaround, which has begun, and would only pick up momentum towards providing secure and good jobs to those who continue in the industry and permit the state to prosper as it provides support and opportunities to the wider national population. I turn now to the gas sector of the hydrocarbon industry. The gas sector, after 5 years of the UNC, was in abysmal shape. The previous government let the core pricing agreements lapse between us and virtually all of our major partners, and conducted business on a month-to-month basis, which froze any significant new capital development or long-term planning. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, you are a landlord and you are renting a tenant space to conduct business. The tenant needs to spend billions of dollars on your land. His long-term lease expires, and you keep him on a month-to-month lease. Do you think he will make any investment on your land? This is how the UNC ran the energy town. This PNM government immediately went into negotiations and competently settled new long-term pricing contracts that resulted in the energy companies announcing $10 billion in expansion and exploration over the next 5 years, starting in 2018. Natural gas production had fallen to 3.2 billion cubic feet per day in 2015. We require 4.2 billion cubic feet per day to be comfortably. We were 1 billion cubic feet a day short and running up liabilities. But the government was lying to us and telling us that it was only temporary maintenance. And when the maintenance was over, it would be all right. We were producing 1 billion cubic feet of gas less. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to report that from December 2017, production is back up and is now standing at 3.8 billion cubic feet per day. And since 2011, we've been suffering curtailment, but that curtailment is now less acute. I can also report that through dint of hard work and delicate diplomacy, we have been able to successfully negotiate downwards or negotiate away billions of dollars in claim liabilities which were being levied against the people of Trinidad and Tobago for failing to meet our contractual obligations during the period of gas curtailment. In moving towards securing our gas future, we have added between BHP and BP roughly 7 trillion cubic feet of gas to our reserves, and we have a historic agreement with our neighbor in Venezuela to monetize another 2.5 trillion cubic feet of Venezuelan gas in the not too distant future. And I want to remind you that when we embarked upon this Venezuelan exercise, the official opposition in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago attempted to encourage the Venezuelan opposition not to allow the Venezuelan government to enter in this agreement with us. And they said on the Parliament record that this is pie in the sky that would never be accomplished. Today I can report to you, case done, matter fixed. Notwithstanding all of this, we still have to pay attention to the country's earning capacity. In one example, whereas an upstream company operating in Trinidad and Tobago in another jurisdiction paid $3.6 billion or 53% of its gross revenue on $6.8 billion, that same company operating in Trinidad and Tobago paid $31 million or 0.6% of its gross revenue in taxes. And for those of you who had fallen asleep, let me repeat that. A company operating in Trinidad and Tobago, producing $6.8 billion of gas, paid another country in taxes $3.6 billion. But in Trinidad and Tobago, for slightly less earnings, paid us $31 million. And I must mention again, it's not in my speech, but I'll mention it now. We said publicly that that is unacceptable in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have been engaging those companies since then until now. And I had to read a column in a local newspaper where that approach by the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been attacked by a columnist from the headline to the last line, putting forward the point of view of the foreign company against the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, seeking to get more for our gas. You might have missed the article, but I didn't miss it. I just shook my head and said Eric Williams had one hell of a job, nearly as hard as mine. But ladies and gentlemen, A comparative analysis of Trinidad and Tobago's competitiveness showed that Trinidad and Tobago is in the median range with respect to fiscal incentives, and the rate of return achieved by investors was among the highest in oil and gas investment in the world. What accounted for this? It was twofold. The previous government gave such aggressive incentives that the people of this country were set to receive no significant revenues from gas until 2024. So after the Prasad Bissessa UNC and her cabal raided every cent the country had, they crippled the earnings from the energy patrimony by giving it away through uninformed incompetence and a complete disregard for the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, under the guise of giving incentive to spur exploration and production. But that was only half the problem. The other challenge was the transfer pricing and marketing arrangements at Atlantic LNG. Between the price transferring and marketing, it created roughly a multi-billion-dollar leakage in revenue out of the pocket of this country. What was occurring could not go unchallenged. It is unacceptable to us in the PNM that as the prospect of the IMF loomed and we were taken to the brink of bankruptcy, gas and oil were being extracted every day without any significant revenue coming to us. As a result, we have embarked upon and have engaged in serious discussions with the upstream producers and the shareholders at Atlantic LNG. We have also levied additional taxes in the form of royalties on gas production where applicable and agreed. And why are we, the PNM, different from other parties? I'll tell you why. While the energy companies have no problem identifying the interests of their shareholders, unlike the previous government, we in the PNM know exactly who our shareholders are and who they represent. We represent the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we know who the gas and oil belong to. It belongs to the flood victims and the school children, the pensioners and single mothers, to the cultural groups, the schools, the colleges and the universities. It belongs to every citizen to pay for security and infrastructure and development. We in the PNM have a very sober and clear mind as to when it comes to who are our shareholders, and a clearer head in knowing that we must make fair and sustainable deals for all parties, especially the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This government has been engaging our partners in the gas sector in frank discussions. Incidentally, this is no different on the same way gas companies approach us when their circumstances change and we gave them concessions. So there is precedent. We have been a good partner and we expect our partners will be good as well. And we expect to work with these our partners. What's wrong with that? I'm pleased to report that all our partners agreed to talk about improving the terms to bring them in alignment with a fairer slice of the economic pie for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Those talks are about to be concluded, and we will report to you as soon as the conclusion is available to us. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me for a moment to address two issues: crime and corruption. Crime and corruption are two of the biggest threats we face as a society. They are both quite interrelated. The first threatens us with the constant fear of violent harm befalling those we love, and the second threatens the body of our politics, the democracy, and the overall quality of life in this country we all love. Both require a sustained, mature, and consistent fight to take back the considerable ground that we have lost to the criminals of all types. I have said as Prime Minister on many a podium, on platforms and in Parliament that the extent, acceptance, culture, and entrenchment of corruption in the public service and private sector is nothing short of a cancer eating away at what is left of the healthy fabric of our society. What we call corruption is known as white-collar crime in other countries, and it is usually executed by corrupt government and private sector officials that either raid the treasury or misuse their shareholder funds. People that do that are white-collar criminals, and in this country, not a single white-collar criminal has seen the inside of a jail yet. We have had multinational corporations and credit unions failing to the tune of billions, threatening our financial system, bailed out by the overburdened taxpayer. Yet, no conclusion. We have had the Piarco airport scandal going on since 2002, 16 years, still at the preliminary inquiry stage. And that scandal, as you know, was the root cause of the subsequent abominable Section 34. That was one of the darkest periods of our constitutional history, Section 34. That was when a government set out to use its power in the Parliament to shape the laws of the land, to secretly protect persons facing the courts for crime against the country. We had a commission of inquiry broadcast live on television with revelation after revelation. We have spent $50 million over 8 years on an investigation with no result to show, with no end in sight. We even experienced the unbelievable temerity of the accused principals and their advisors in that very fiasco, retain lawyers to fight off paying you the $15 billion that was owed to you, that was left unacknowledged by the last government. They even demanded that your representatives, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, get off the board and hand the offending company back to them. It was this PNM government that fought them all tooth and nail in the courts to get back your money. We saw the racist agents of the UNC turn our fight for you and what is right and fair into a racist attack on the PNM and on me, your political leader. But that is always to be expected. History would forever show that we were successful in court and that we compounded that success by using those recovered assets in the National Investment Fund bonds for you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. There were billions stolen and embezzled from the treasury under the Prasad Bisesa UNC with a bold-facedness and impunity that had so damaged national psyche, making you actually believe that as a people, we were powerless and helpless to their devices, that we can do nothing and somehow we must accept meekly until election time. They have made you mistrustful and numb. Some are even oblivious to their actions and their record. Election was our only defense because they wanted us to accept that there was no other option until now. I have said before, I could understand the general skepticism out there and the cynicism in some media quarters on my government's landmark moves against white-collar crime. I can see how easy it is for our posture and resolve in going after white-collar crime in Eden Gardens, the port, and EMBD could be viewed as a witch hunt for cheap political points. But historically, nothing ever seems to be concluded and persons were never held accountable, so I understand your skepticism and your cynicism. It is easy to understand the pessimism and disenchantment of some. This is part of the numbness and apathy we have had to adopt to block out the failed and illegal state of emergency as a crime-fighting tool, the Rashmi Ramnarine hiring, the runoff with respect to our national elections, prison gate, the disgusting abuse of food cards and other social services, the dismantling of our major elements in national security. And of course, we've had the $400 million murderous live sports scandal and the then Prime Minister's infamous slurred speech to TV6. That is where we've been. That is where we are as a people. It is here that I agree with the opposition leader, who in her recent speech in Guyana made the telling observation that Trinidad and Tobago needs leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, the PNM is providing that absent leadership. I will share with you what has been on my mind and how disappointed I am to see how far down the road we've reached. There's a pernicious minority sentiment that I've seen that makes that very clear. But before I do, I want you to imagine the country you want for you and for your children. Think about the government and the society you want. Okay? Now think that we have sections of this population across the spectrum extolling in quiet corners at cocktail parties, in rum shops, in gatherings, and even in homes in front of children. They would say, I don't mind if the government thieving as long as they run some money and I could get something, a box drain or a contract on a case of baby milk. That is where our people have been taken. That is what they're asking you to accept. Asking you to accept candidates with criminal charges over their head. Asking you to accept leadership in parties with people who are known to have questions to answer for the public trust. Today I call upon every right-thinking citizen to reject those infections, the talk, and watch anyone who encourages you into that space. It's a given now after the UNC rampage. Some people genuinely feel that only a thieving government could perform and satisfy your needs. Or worse, that only inherently corrupt governments can deliver projects and demonstrate caring for the needs of the population. In short, by not rejecting this new yardstick outright, we are being asked to accept our own social and economic strangulation. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that those spreading that cancer of an idea think about the impact of passing down that twisted gene onto your generation, your children and grandchildren. Teaching moral ambivalence to your grandchild that the government can thief once money passing and the people getting part of the spoil is okay. Just think about that. You will be creating generation upon generation of corrupt individuals, thereby entrenching corruption as a way of life and as a substitute for the nationhood that Eric Williams encouraged us into in 1962. And where will that lead us? Incidentally, this is the same kind of argument advanced by the armed criminal as justification for his varied violent crimes against the innocent and unfortunate amongst us. I say to you today, reject outright that idea and its purveyors. The only expectation our children should have is a government that is honest, productive, and competent in the discharge of its duties and responsibilities. A government that is accountable, progressive, and caring, with swift and modern systems with consequences for any person who betrays the public trust. I also ask you to pay careful attention to how those most guilty of these shortcomings quickly morph into strident converts as defenders of the public interest. In some other political parties, that skill of demonstrated dishonesty seems to be a requisite qualification for advancement and elevation in their organization. Not so. It wasn't so, and it will never be so in the PNM, because we stand for morality in public affairs. We must expect a realistic and strong economy, a principled government, and we must expect prosperity. And of course, we must not accept a government that's different. We must accept a government that doesn't covet and steal public money.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I'm hearing it.
And to those ideals, this PNM government will take you there.
I'm not hearing you.
So when you see this government pursuing white-collar crime and corruption, I lead a national duty. It is upholding our oath of office to serve you and not about settling scores or enriching ourselves. The actions in the state enterprise sector, the Ministry of Housing and the Port are not of a personal interest or my personal political interest or even our party's political interest. These actions are in fact done for one interest, the national interest. These and similar actions are in the interest of changing the culture and acceptance of corruption and white-collar crime and criminals as an integral part of the landscape and par for the course in Trinidad and Tobago. There's one way to change a culture, one way, and that is to create a new one. For too long, justice did not prevail in corruption scandals. We need to walk this country back to one where politics is a noble calling. Public service is not viewed as a quick get-rich-quick scheme, and winning a contract from the state is the surest way of collecting more than you worked for. This government is doing the right thing for the right reasons, in a balanced and measured way, guided by the court in the public interest. This war on white-collar crime is not personal nor political. It's a national imperative, too long in coming. Let me show you what is possible when you have a government operating in the public interest. Some tangible examples. I'm going to give you some prices of projects that were priced by the UNC with tenders in hand, and they were ready to go when you, the people, put them out of office in 2015. This PNM government, using proper, transparent tender processes, retendered those projects. Now in these projects, nothing has changed technically. It's the same roads, over the same land, prices tendered by the same set of contractors. The specifications for the projects have not changed. All that has changed is that this new PNM government was retendering the project in a competitive, transparent tender arrangement. Listen to this. The Churchill-Roosevelt Highway extension to Manzanilla, phase 1, from Komuto to Toko. That is the one they tried to block. Go to the Privy Council and lost. That one. That was
the political leaders
tendered and was to be delivered for $547,283,000. That was the going price when we retendered it. After 2015, the new tender price under the PNM government, it came in at $401,280,000. $146 million less. Same project, same place, same scope. The Curab flyover. Remember that one where 2 UNC ministers were fighting over who did what, where and when? And the junior minister complained to the prime minister. She fired the junior minister out of the party and out of the cabinet. And of course, we retendered it. The tender prior to us was $402 million. Sorry, $412 million. Under our retender, same project, same price, same place, $221 million, for a difference of $190 million. In the National Road Paving Program, we met the standard going price at $1,200 per ton for hot mix. That price is now at $600 a ton. So in just those two projects I mentioned, the QF interchange and the commuter highway, $336 million difference for the same project. Ask yourself, how is that possible? And ask yourself also, where was that $340 million going? Now, if they're going to court to block and fight to prevent their accounts from being looked into under law, are you surprised that the UNC parliamentarians will be fighting FACTA and Global Forum in the parliament and fighting to prevent the tax amendment bill from being passed? Are you surprised? Well, I'm not. Let me give some other examples of better pricing that you have earned by virtue of electing the PNM government just in the nick of time. The Point Fortin Hospital was awarded before we came into office, but they had not put the funding in place. It fell to us to do that and to pick up the project from award and go forward. The contractor was there, selected and ready to go. But the price was $1.5 billion. We renegotiated an arrangement and settled it at $1.1 billion. So right there we saved $400 million. We are going to do the same hospital that is now being completed in Point Fortin, the identical hospital. We're going to build that in Sangre Grande. The only difference is that in Sangre Grande, they may not have to pile as extensively as happened in Point Fortin. But the price for the project that we are pursuing in Sangre Grande comes in at $850 million. That is $550 million less than the original price of the Point Fortin Hospital. Have I boggled your minds yet? The Red House, when we came in, contract the Red House, $866 million to finish it. We stopped it and we started over. We brought in UDCOT and I instructed that UDCOT will take it over, and I as Prime Minister will chair a cabinet committee to oversee this project. This was madness. They took objection to me as Prime Minister chairing a cabinet subcommittee to oversee this. And they know why. Because having broken up that project into 17 sections managed by UDCOT, the final price on budget and in time now is $445 million. We saved $445 million there. $441 million to complete it in an original arrangement of $886 million. Whitehall, one building, little house, renovating it, refurbishing it. Price going was $57 million. It's underway now for $39 million. We just saved a little $28 million there. President's House. Remember President's House? The roof fell during the election campaign in 2010. They left it there unattended for 5 years and were just about to embark upon it if they had won the election. But the contract then, the estimate then was $164 million. That project is well advanced now for completion in June of next year, and the price under this government is $89 million. We saved $55 million there. And of course the Brian Lara Stadium, which they left unattended. They removed everything that was nailed down or cemented down and said it couldn't be finished. But if they had to finish it, the estimated cost was $175 million. Well, we finished it for $85 million. Those 6 projects, ladies and gentlemen, those 6 projects I mentioned there, their arrangement and this government arrangements, we've saved $1.565 billion. You see, having introduced that to you here, now you know it is inconceivable that I will not tell you how we intend to repair this situation as a people. And I refer here to whistleblower legislation. Because in all that rape of our treasury, somebody knows somebody who's doing it. Understand? It is the secrecy of the arrangement. Ask yourself where that $1.5 billion was going. and who was getting it, and under what circumstances. Well, we have laid well-researched whistleblower legislation in the Parliament. That's one of the first things this government did. We took it to committee in Parliament, Joint Select Committee. I need not tell you what their position was and how it remains. Delay, object, obstruct, special majority. We took it out of committee. We will get it to the floor for debate with the special majority and other amendments that they wanted, and we'll put it to the vote at the earliest opportunity by the end of March. We would have had our Parliament vote on that. I'm asking you here, fellow citizens, to monitor the Parliament and see them block it. When you see them struggling to find a coherent excuse to not support legislation, now you know why. Campaign finance reform. Since 2011, the PNM has been the only political party in this country which has been cooperating with the OAS with its efforts to encourage Caribbean governments to enact campaign finance legislation. We attended and participated in the inaugural meeting in Jamaica and another meeting in Barbados on this subject. In 2019, we intend to introduce this issue to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. We have a bill in the Office of the Attorney General that is almost ready for laying in the House. When it gets there in a few weeks' time, it will be sent to a Joint Select Committee for attention by way of immediate public consultation against a specific deadline to facilitate debate and a vote by the end of July 2019, well ahead and in time for the next general election, which is due in 2020. We have investigated, followed information, established evidence as required. We have involved the courts and the police. Many matters are engaging the attention of law enforcement, and that explains the low motilary behavior displayed by some of my parliamentary colleagues and their enablers. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we are, and that's what is required. Whistleblower legislation, campaign finance reform, and a commitment to morality in public affairs. I want to turn now for a few minutes to the subject of our presence in cyberspace and the use of cyberspace. If we are to be a functioning democracy and survive as such, we need to be aware of life either in or from cyberspace. Most members in this audience have a cell phone. Many of you are on Facebook and WhatsApp. Many of you spend a lot of your time communicating with people, sending pictures, messages, videos, and so on, your personal and private space. I want you to cast your mind back to 2011, when a name, Janice Thomas, had appeared on the national landscape. Turned out to be somebody at UWI, or some fictitious person that is, who was managing an arrangement of students who were paid to do blogging and cyberspace activity for the ruling party. The same Janice Thomas, whoever that person was, sent a threatening message to a newspaper editor and reporter, and thus the real identity of Janice Thomas was revealed. That's how we knew what was going on in UWI. She turned out to be the close friend of one of the last government's most obnoxious ministers. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the beginning of the plague of misinformation, racial division, and an epidemic of fake news where we find ourselves facing on a daily basis today from the same people using instruments that you use every day, your smartphone. Information is extremely valuable, and truth is a necessary ingredient if democracy and social cohesion are to flourish. Societies have always taken measure to protect itself from those publishing lies and misinformation while protecting a fundamental democratic right, the freedom of speech. In this digital age, the world through its parliaments is now seeking to come to terms with finding that balance as it relates to social media, dangerous misinformation, and freedom of speech. For a democracy to work, it must be informed, and it relies on citizens being able to access, share, and disseminate, and rely on information that is real. Public opinion is increasingly being shaped by information that we get online, information that influences our choices and, I dare say, our behavior. What we also cannot ignore is the enormity of how online data has been gathered, organized, and weaponized to influence political outcomes, especially bad outcomes. With naked lies easily available for distribution and electronically, the lines between malicious propaganda and journalism have become quite blurred. We in the PNM recognize the great potential and bounty as well as the grave threat of this new digital age. It is why 1 year ago we modified our constitution in the interest of this party and the country to introduce social media officers across the party. And today this convention accepted resolutions to broaden that understanding of social media. Our resolve was strengthened when we also saw our country shoot into the global headlines, being named as the original testing ground in the middle of the Cambridge Analytica Facebook Data International scandal. We, Little Trinidad and Tobago, we were the original pilot project for the Cambridge Analytica scandal and model of misinformation. The whistleblower, one Christopher Wiley, under oath in the United States and the British Parliaments, alleged that AIQ, a company, aggregate IQ called AIQ, this company was established alongside Cambridge Analytica, and they were secretly brought right here to our shores to monitor the internet browsing lifestyle of every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago for the political benefit of the ruling party. It was being done without your knowledge or consent, but paid for by you, the abused taxpayer. This is a matter which by all means must attract the attention of the Parliament, and as a government we are not prepared to turn a blind eye to this. There must be a parliamentary inquiry into this abuse of your trust and abuse of your money. Sensitive information was secretly gathered on you to be used for a political purpose that you didn't know about. Yet every day now, they want transparency on everything we do. They are out front demanding information that doesn't even exist. Are you comfortable with the UNC having your browsing data? Anand, Ramdeen, Rodney Charles, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Pararat, Wademark, Prakash, knowing and monitoring what sites you visit or having all your internet data activity? Are you comfortable with that? Well, you've lived it, you survived it, and it's still going on. I can tell you now, it is the view of this government that your data should be private and stay private. And if that data is accessed, it should be only for authorized law enforcement and under the eye of judicial officers. The right to privacy is in this country one of the constitutional provisions. That is what the offenders are saying now, but they didn't know that then when they were abusing your privacy and your data. The whistleblower, Mr. Wiley, even passed emails and contractual documents between AIQ and agents of the then UNC-led government and their cutouts, and went on to say they have already done work in Trinidad and Tobago as far back as 2013. Now you know why you were receiving those annoying political online contacts on your unlisted phone during the 2015 general election. Of course, when you have money to burn and one overpass is overpriced by $165 million and you had a free hand in the NGC checkbook, you can recruit and hire the best criminal schemers in the world. The Cambridge Analytica group of companies boasts of engineering and campaigns for pro-Brexit movement, such as Vote Leave and Believe in the UK. These companies were also centrally involved in the US election campaign and is subject to ongoing investigations that they surreptitiously work right here in Trinidad and Tobago for the disgraced UNC in preparation for the general election of 2015. That was the poison fruit that they were aiming to feed you here. They have learned the process, and that is why every single day now, the local newsrooms are flooded with a constant diet of misinformation and fake news from idle former UNC millionaire ministers and their paid agents and underlings working overtime to shape the national psyche after their own likeness and image. The Cambridge Analytica whistleblower felt compelled to caution the world when he said, "This is what Cambridge Analytica were doing for hire." And I quote him, the whistleblower. "This was a grossly unethical experiment because you are playing with the psychology of an entire country without their consent or awareness. And not only are you playing with the psychology of an entire nation, but you are playing with the psychology in the context of its democratic process," unquote. That from people who engaged in the UNC campaign. But for us in the PNM, there is no surprise that the last government will threaten our democracy like this, or use their executive power like this. No surprise whatsoever. They were the very people that used the office of Prime Minister and Attorney General and the power of the Cabinet and the Parliament to bring you Section 34, and who in a debate in the Parliament defended the live sports scandal. People that decided to stay in office at all costs out of fear of what we would find, or what we are finding now if we come into office. The UNC's effort did not stop at Cambridge Analytica. Browsing data and revelations is still going on right now. There was a very expressive heading in a particular UNC document, and it read, and I quote for you, "Tapping into state agencies to build a voter base using existing data." There they were talking about getting into the databases of WASA, TNTEC, TT Post, TSTT, and GATE to build a database for the political party that was seeking to remain in office. That's what they were about. I ask you again, are you comfortable with your data from these agencies being the database of a political party? You know, them knowing who you calling, them knowing who you texting, them knowing who you sending photographs to. That's what it is. And if you listen to them in Parliament now, as they try to block legislation, you would hear them bleating about protecting the public interest from government. And of course, they're doing that not to protect any public interest. They're doing that to protect themselves from the enforcement of law against criminal conduct. You see, it's easy to miss what we are on the front line of a silent but very advanced war on misinformation. We could miss the fact that we have the most desperate opposition, one that would do anything to return to office, if only to free themselves from all white-collar crime and criminal investigations currently underway. We have an opposition driven not by love or patriotism. To them, nothing is sacred. One where the intent is to fracture the country into shards based on race, class, ethnicity, and religion. Imagine accusing me, this proud Tobagonian from Mason Hall, carrying all your standards and values, accusing me of being in the pocket of the Syrian Lebanese business community. People I represent in Parliament with pride, but they see something else. Imagine this coming from a political entity where known political indictments and shaming are never enough to disqualify the defenders from elevation and promotion within their ranks. Their failed efforts are always about character assassination and stoking prejudices and biases to inflame fault lines for political benefit. Let me give you some examples of misinformation that they spawned across our public news and debate. Front page in the Express. Rowley has throat cancer. Thank God I have no such thing. What I have is a desire to ensure that those who make those kinds of statements, they have more cancer than me. Rowley is a rapist and his father is one too. That is the parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. The galleons passes stall off Venezuela and is drifting. Remember that? Start off in their cyberspace, end up on mainstream news. The galleon passage to take 9 hours between Port of Spain and Scarborough. Have people saying, I ain't going on that, not me on that boat. A former speaker of the parliament who is now leader in the Senate has called on the population not to go on the galleon passage. And of course, the high point of the attack on Facebook. We're only sleeping in a mosque. Sleeping in a mosque during service. And that's supposed to incite the Muslim population. Tobago has no food on the grocery shelves. And they're starving in Tobago. But penny savers full of food from wall to wall. Last 2 weeks ago, they drove a statement trying to push it in the mainstream news. 16 people drowned in Greenvale, and the government through the Defense Force and the Coast Guard hiding the information from the population. Opposition leader, former Prime Minister, telling the country that the NIF is a Ponzi scheme, is a pyramid. And of course, the most recent highlighting one is that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has a bank account in Florida receiving money from AV drilling. Well, that I enjoyed, because that is going to court next week. But these are just a few of the kinds of things that they spawn in social media and push forward, seeking to influence the national population for themselves and against others. We have a much more extensive list, and we'll get to that sometime later on. So in this new information age, who do we trust? Where do we go while the world finds this new balance in this new information age? What I do know is that blaming Facebook and Instagram for us receiving and spreading fake news is like blaming the plate, the knife and the fork for what we eat. We must change our behavior first, and our society's editors must become fact checkers. We must see misinformation, political or otherwise, as injurious to our democracy and society. We in the PNM have always aspired to the truth and share the truth. We have always embraced the responsibility of nation building and the defense of our democracy. Now we must do it online and in our chat rooms. We are now all over social media, and we must all be social media officers for the People's National Movement and for the nation. We must be fact checkers and truth tellers. If you are on Facebook or wherever you are, in a chat, you be responsible for the fact checking. We understand the bounty of this new information age, but it comes with a new responsibility that we must embrace. The responsibility of critical thinking and a copious dose of skepticism, of filtering hidden agendas and misinformation, of spreading the truth and exposing lies and those who spread it. It is now a civic duty to your community. It is what you can do to protect yourself and our society. And as I come to the close, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to end on the note of discipline and production. On a day before independence, Dr. Eric Williams addressed this nation's school children. And I would like to quote from that speech for a moment, because it is relevant now as it was then. And I believe it still holds the key to unlock many of our current problems. Dr. Williams said, and I quote, "I have given this nation as its watchwords discipline, production, and tolerance. They apply as much to you as to your parents. The discipline is both individual and national. The individual cannot be allowed to seek his personal interests and gratify his personal ambition at the expense of our nation, unquote. Dr. Williams went on to say, we must produce in order to enjoy. And I want to repeat that phrase. We must produce in order to enjoy. And I want to say, he continued, wealth does not drop from the sky for any individual and nation. Reduce production, skylark on the job, take twice as long to do a job. It will cost twice as much. Do any of these things and you reduce the total amount available to be shared. If you don't pull your weight, you will fatten at the expense of others, unquote. That was a message to school children on the 30th of August, 1962. I was one of those first-year high school students who received that historic entreaty. Today, I would say that the entire speech should be regularly read to all school children of this nation, as it was nothing short of a call to responsible citizenship. Dr. Williams said, wealth does not drop from the sky. And I would like to add, nor does it miraculously come up from a gas or oil well in the ground. The state of our energy sector is proof that the first ingredient of prosperity is discipline. Because without discipline, you can bankrupt an oil company and indeed a nation. There can be no production without discipline, and without production, there can be no prosperity for any or for all. Before we lost the first dollar of the 25 billion we lost in Petrotrin, the management, staffers, and governments lost discipline as they were running it. Dr. Williams told school children that individuals cannot be allowed to seek their personal interests and gratify personal ambitions at the expense of our nation. It is because we have lost that message to history and lost discipline that we are now drowning in a sea of lost opportunities of violence and rampant white-collar crime. Personal gratification is now so instant that a criminal will snatch your life for a few $100s, putting his immediate want over that of another human life, and with callous indifference to the pain and trauma to families, communities, and I dare say the nation. As a people, the only thing that could return us to prosperity is an aggressive practice of discipline and production. We need to rededicate ourselves to personal and collective discipline, and it is that which would move us towards and return us to law and order. Let us return as a people to our watchwords, to guide our actions and decisions in the boardrooms and on the kitchen tables of every house. Let us return to those values that were known as right and reject what is wrong, because we know indiscipline is contagious and terminal. Trinidad and Tobago, we have our future in our hands. We have come from very far, and the journey has not always been without pain and anger. But it was always filled with hope and successes. If we make sensible and daring choices, buttressed by all the good values that we can inculcate, then our best days will be ahead of us. Like the days of Moses, not all of us would see the promised land, but let us do nothing to prevent all our children and grandchildren from being inheritors of that promise. Go brave, be strong, have faith in yourselves and in your God. And as we part today, let us together with one voice shout that refrain: great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome back to this, the 48th National Convention of the People's National Movement at Shore Park Cultural Complex here in Tobago. I am Randall Mitchell, your Member of Parliament for San Fernando East and Minister of Tourism. And now for our final segment, I have with me Mrs. Nadine Stewart Phillips, Secretary for Tourism, Culture and Transportation at the Tobago House of Assembly, as well as Senator the Honorable Clarence Rambarat, Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. Gentlemen, so,
my task is not over. I have one seminal duty to carry out at this point in time. Traditionally, at this time in our conventions, it falls to the political leader to advise the party as to who our deputies are. As per our constitution, you would know that our deputy is the leader, one of our deputies is the leader of the Tobago Island Council, and in that way, the leader of the PNM in Tobago, Mr. Kelvin Charles, remains a deputy political leader. Our deputy political leader policy remains Senator Rohan Sinanan. Deputy political leader legislative, Ms. Marlene MacDonald. And deputy political leader, party and elections, Mrs. Joan Yule Williams. I trust that you will give them all your cooperation as they continue to discharge their assistance to the political leader. Thank you.
thank you again. So welcome back. So we've just had a short little break just to hear the announcement of the deputy political leader. So just for some final thoughts on a beautiful day, Sunday, that we have had here in Tobago, our 48th National Convention. And we've just heard the political leader's address, something that is widely anticipated in the national population. But Clarence and Nadine, what stood out for me was the Eric Williams Award, awarded to persons for long and meritorious service. And someone who was just, again, reappointed deputy political leader, a stalwart in San Fernando East, Mrs. Joan Yule Williams, was one of those recipients. And for that, I am extremely proud. Also, someone who I consider a mentor, Mr. Hedwidge Barrow, a past MP for the constituency of Labre, who has given his life for the PNM. I'm really proud that the People's National Movement, the party that I am glad to be associated with, glad to be a member of, considers persons who have given their life and worked assiduously and hard for the development of not just the party, but of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I just wanted to say that that is what really stood out for me. What do you have to say, Nadine?
A pleasant good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. It was definitely a pleasure having you join us at the 48th Convention of the People's National Movement on the beautiful island of Tobago. I am sure my colleagues would agree that this must have been the best convention or one of the best conventions held at the Shore Park Cultural Complex. And today's convention is a strong indication that the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago have aligned themselves with that statement by the late Dr. Eric Williams that the alternative to the PNM is chaos and confusion, because amidst the economic challenges and the hard decisions that the government has to make, persons still understand that the PNM is the only choice in terms of governance in Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the things that stood out for me is coming out of the Prime Minister's speech. It has to do with development on the island of Tobago. We spoke about the marina, where a contract was already awarded. We also heard about the call for proposals for the construction of the new airport terminal, and so we are very excited about that in Tobago. We are also excited about the prospects for the sandals development in Tobago. And so we just want to thank the government for continuing to give that support to the Tobago House of Assembly, and we are asking the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to continue to trust the People's National Movement, continue to trust the leadership of Dr. Keith Rowley as we move towards our 2030 vision.
Well, there are two things I want to highlight. The first is that we've been here, the cabinet has been here since Friday into Sunday, and our time here has been split into two. What people have been seeing is the PNM at work and the government at work. So on Friday, we had a full cabinet meeting followed by side meetings with the Tobago House of Assembly. We've had other events relating to the workings of the government. And by midday Saturday, we switched into the party's affairs. And for anybody, there's this talk about secret government. But anybody who has been following, and today in particular, through broadcast by social media and public broadcast later on, you've seen a party at work and a government at work working in tandem. We've been transparent, people understand what we're doing. And the second thing I would like to highlight is the Prime Minister's closing speech. I don't think that a Prime Minister or political leader of any party has dedicated so much time to talk about this issue of cybercrime, the use of social media, what is happening. The fact that our political opponents are invested in using social media as fake news, using social media to put forward a position that is not the truth. And he's spent a significant amount of time on corruption. He spent time on social media, Facebook, and the need for we ourselves as politicians and members of the PNM to strengthen the hand of the party and strengthen the hand of the government in dealing with these political challenges. I am excited. I'm sure the people from Mayaro who are here with me, my home constituency, have had a great time in listening and following, and we look forward to the 49th convention of the PNM.
Our field officer, the mayor of
All right, so thank you very much. It has been a supreme pleasure being here in Tobago for another national convention. I'm very proud to be a member of this party. I'm very proud to represent the constituency of San Fernando East. And before I go on, let me just say hello to all the constituents, the beautiful constituents of San Fernando East. And I thank you. Nadine?
All I would say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we continue to prevail.
I want to thank the THA, I want to thank Tobago, I want to thank the party, this great party of ours. We've had a good time doing the people's business, and we look forward to continuing it.
Despite his advanced age, but is still brilliant intellect. Our education officer, Mr. Ovan Padmo. She showed her quality as a long-standing officer of the movement by the way she coordinated the flood victim relief effort. Let's welcome our welfare officer, Ms. Joycelyn Bodden. Our youth officer, Mr. Endale Young. The hardest, I shouldn't say that, but I'm outgoing chairman. Probably the hardest working officer of the movement, the operations officer, Mrs. Irene Hines. And the committee that invariably puts out the best reports at convention. This year obviously challenged by the Tobago Council. Our labor relations officer, Mrs. Jennifer Batiste Primus. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, the officers of the movement.
PNM family, all the feeling. Are you ready? I hear all the feeling. Stop it.
Yeah, there was one omission because we amended the constitution a while ago, that the chairman of the Tobago Council of the PNM, Mr. Stanford Callender, is also an officer of the movement. My apologies.
PNM family, tell me, are you ready? Are you ready? To build back a country. We forward and build red army. So I finally say, no quiet. Come on, let's do this. Tobago, are you ready? We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the love of your country, place your voice. vote for the. Jamaica get ready. We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the la 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 la. Say, come on, my people, let's stand together underneath the red, white, and black banner. Yeah, burn out corruption like leaves it a scatter. Tricks and insult the people, them flattered. The partnership done sink already. We voting steady for Dr. King. Running the right time. I made up my mind to build back this idea in all you. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Yo, for the la 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 la. The big over you ready? We rolling with the red army. Yo, for the la 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 la. We often boast and say God is a Trinity, a blessed nation, the Caribbean envy. I love a sunlight, the place get heavy. Things now move right, God no life. Say come on my people, let's do this together. Let me see some hands.
That's all right. Thank you, Sasha. Well, ladies and gentlemen.